My name is Dana. So today I need to make sandwich bread. We're out, and I thought that I would make a video while I was making the sandwich bread because it's really good. I've tried lots and lots of different ones that are called sandwich breads, but to me a sandwich bread is like the kind you get from the store that has a softer crust. It's not crunchy, and it has a more dense crumb to it. It's not mushy as store bread, but it's not real dense, just perfect for sandwiches. So I found this a long time ago on the internet, printed it off so I could read it while I'm making it to you. So I'll put the recipe in the description. And also I'm working on a website, and when I get that finished, I'm going to have everything listed on there as far as recipes and different things. And it'll also be kind of a group where those that like to can or bake, cook, do anything like that in general can come and chat. 2 cups of warm water, and I heat that in the microwave. So I've heated my water up. It should be between 110 to 130 degrees. If it's not warm enough, it won't activate yeast. If it's too hot, it'll kill it. I have my instant read thermometer, and I'm going to go ahead and check the water. I have 2 cups, which in my microwave usually takes about 2 minutes to get to the temperature I need it at. And it looks like we're right around 125 degrees. So that will work perfect. The first thing it says to do is grease your 2 normal size bread pans. This could be made if you have a Pullman pan, the kind that's longer and a little more narrow, but has the lid and makes a square loaf. You could probably make it in that too. I have a Pullman style pan, doesn't have the lid, but mine are very long. So I don't get as much bread out of it as what I do the 2 loaves. And I just use regular old Pam to spray, or that type of spray anyway, to get my pans ready. So that part's done. And then it says to move on with, while you're heating your water, you could do this part. So in my stand mixer, I'm going to be adding oil, sugar or honey, and I use honey, and the salt. So we have 1/4 cup of canola oil, the honey, that's also a 1/4 cup. This is orange blossom, just a local store orange blossom honey. Okay, and then next goes in salt. I like kosher salt for my cooking, most of my baking, and even in my canning. So that's 2 spoons of salt in with the oil and honey. Then we're going to add our 2 cups of water, called Vital Wheat Gluten. And what it is a gluten flour. This gives your bread more dense of a crumb than like if you just baked maybe a loaf of frozen bread you can get from the store. If you made just a white bread recipe that's not meant for sandwiches. Probably not making homemade bread if you are gluten-free in it, but you can certainly leave this out. You could also, if you don't have this or don't want to order any of this, you can also make it with bread flour that has more gluten in it than all-purpose. But I use the wheat flour and all-purpose flour in mine, and it comes out perfect every time, so that would be totally up to you. 2 tablespoons of the gluten flour. And you can see it's kind of, I don't know if you can see it very well, it's kind of a yellowish, and it's powdery and soft, so we're just going to add 2 tablespoons of that in. 3 cups of flour, and you can fluff it up the way I always do it, so that I don't overpack the flour, as I try to fluff it up and then just drop it in my cup like this. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to put in our dough hook. We're going to put the yeast on top of the flour, making sure it doesn't touch the salt or the hot water, and that is 1 tablespoon of yeast. I buy this at a big box store. There's 2 of them that I get at a time in a package together, and then I just store it in a container and then keep it in my refrigerator. Bring it out a little bit before I'm going to bake bread. So we turn on our mixer and we start mixing that together. Flour is between 5 5.5 cups. We started with 3 cups. We can go 2.5 cups more. We can go less than that, or we may have to go more than that. But what we go by as far as judging that is adding flour about a cup at a time and waiting for it to start pulling away from the side of the bowl. And we're going to give it a minute to see if it starts pulling away from the bowl. So I'm trying to scrape down my flour the best I can to get it all down where it will mix in better. You have to constantly stop it and kind of push that dry flour and anything that comes up around the edge of the bowl down inside. So we'll turn it back on. Okay, it's a little loud, but I want you to see that as it's moving, it is clearing the sides of the bowl. So now we need to let this knead for 6 more minutes. I'm going to set my timer. So of course, if you don't have a stand mixer to use this for kneading, you would just go ahead and knead it by hand for 6 minutes. Our 6 minutes is up. The next thing is you're going to shape it and put it in your loaf pans. So there is no 2 raising for this. It's basically 1 raising right directly in the pan and then into the oven. So here's our dough. And it says it should be kind of stretchy, kind of sticky, and look pretty smooth, which it's all of those things. So we're going to go ahead and measure the dough. I'm just going to make it into basically a ball. Try to divide it in half. I have a scale. It says, according to how much flour you put in, it could vary, but it's according to the recipe, it should weigh about 1.75 ounces each. So we're going to check one and see if we're even close. See, we got 1.8, 1.7. So both the same size. So you won't get a tiny loaf and then a bigger loaf. And then what it says is to roll it and kind of, just like this, put the seam on the bottom of the loaf and then kind of give it a tap just to remove most of the air. And that's what we have. So we'll go ahead and put him in one pan and we'll get this guy ready. Just keep kind of rolling it until you get what looks like a loaf. Put your seam underneath. Kind of tuck the ends in if they're funky or a different size. That's pretty much the same all the way across. So there we have them both in our pan. It's a proof button on my stove over here above bake. So it just heats your oven up a little bit, just enough to help it rise if your room temperature is a little cool. So we're going to go ahead and slide our pans in there for 30 minutes and let them raise. Okay, so full disclosure on these loaves. In my oven under proof, it took more like 45 to 50 minutes. It is chilly tonight and it's chilly in the house and proof doesn't turn up the heat that much. So it took a little longer for them, but you can see that they're pretty even in size and they're raised up. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but raised up above the pan just a tiny bit. So they go in the oven at 400 degrees now, and they stay in there at 400 for 5 minutes. Then you leave them in the oven and turn your temperature down to 350. And then they will bake another 25 minutes. Take them out of the oven and dump them right out of the pan onto a wire rack carefully. And I'll bring you back when they're done baking. So here we have our 2 loaves of bread, nice and golden, smells so good. I have a little cheapy plastic sandwich bread cutter, but what you do is slide it to the inside and then use these guides for your knife. It cuts even pieces, so it's really the best sandwich bread I've ever tried and made. And when they cool and I cut them open, I'll show you the crumb on that. That'll be a picture at the end, but I'm going to let them cool there. And then I have plastic bags that I bought from Amazon. They're bread bags. Had I known I was going to start doing my own sandwich bread, I would have saved my other bread bags that, from the store, but I didn't know. So I like to keep them in bags. I think it makes them fresher. So I'll slice those open and show you how they look for sandwiches. One thing I do want to show you about the bread is if you can see this crust, it's not a crunchy hard crust like normally white bread, just made to be eaten. This is really soft. It's just like getting your bread at the grocery store. Once this cools, all of that is really soft, including on the sides and then the bottoms, which I wanted to show you that too. It's not burnt at all. It's just nice and browned, and it just has that really soft sandwich bread texture to it. So I think you're really going to like it. I hope you are inspired to try this recipe because it's really good. You might make it and decide not to go back to the store to get bread again. It's just that good. So thank you for stopping by my channel and baking bread with me today. And like I said, I'll put a picture of it at the end. Please consider subscribing to my channel. We're going to do some more baking, some cooking. Please like my videos and possibly share them, or at least come back and look for some more things. I try to put out a few a week, so there'll be different things to look at. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll talk to you later.